In this video, I'm going to show you one of the most controversial hacks when it comes to credit repair that I bet you're probably not doing, or you're probably not doing it correctly. But this could be the difference between you not getting deletions for things like charge-offs, collections, repossessions, and you actually seeing those negative items coming off of your credit report for good. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how a credit freeze works, when to actually go about freezing your credit, and what you're going to need to do when you are ready to rebuild your credit and you need to lift that freeze. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I talk a lot about credit and money. Make sure you are subscribed to Passively Jazz. I'm going to be putting together little mini tutorials just like this to help you in your own DIY credit repair journey. Now, a credit freeze is something that you can do 100% for free, and I highly encourage you to do this before you ever send out your first round dispute letters. You can do this before you fix your personal information or after. It doesn't really matter the particular order, but you have to do it before you send out your first round dispute letter. Because the way that a credit freeze works is that you would go to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and you would put the freeze on your credit report, which would prevent any creditor from being able to pull any of your credit reporting details or your credit score. And this could be for something like a pre-approval or a normal approval process, which would typically result in a hard inquiry on your credit report. Now, I'm going to recommend you do this even if you are not someone who needs credit repair right now. If you also have no use for your credit score or credit reporting details being seen by any creditors, this is just going to really give you an added layer of protection when it comes to identity theft. Because if you have transactions that are being opened, if you have transactions being opened in your name, you probably are not going to notice until you randomly go for a line of credit. And if you get a copy of your credit report, you'll see that account populate. Or if someone stole your identity to get something like a car loan or to get a new cell phone at Verizon Wireless, whenever they stop, unfortunately, paying on those bills, that's when you'll see things like collections hit your credit report and drop your score 50 to 100 points. And by that time, it's going to feel like it's way too late. Now, a credit freeze can be something that is very temporary for you. It really isn't that difficult to lift the freeze, especially if you do have the Experian app or you already have a free account with TransUnion or Equifax. And it's also not that difficult just to get rid of the freeze altogether. But a temporary lift is something that's going to allow you to participate in the process of being approved for a line of credit and easily placing that freeze back on your credit when you're finished. So should you freeze or should you lock your credit? Well, that's really going to depend on how soon you need your credit and how quickly you do need to access it. Now, if you're someone who is not actively going after new lines of credit at the moment, or maybe you're months or years away from really using your credit for anything really, you should opt into a credit freeze. A credit freeze is going to be 100% free and likely the better choice for you. And don't worry if you don't already have a free account with any of the 3 credit reporting agencies, because you can get one for free right off of their websites. And don't worry, they will try to sell you something, but you can just say no and opt into just setting up a free account. Now, should you freeze or should you lock your credit? The choice is really going to be up to you, but in my personal opinion, I really don't see a big difference between freezing and locking, with the exception that locking your credit makes it a lot easy for you to get to your credit a lot faster. If you're about to, say, go car shopping this weekend, maybe you do want to apply for some new credit cards, or maybe you're house shopping, a credit lock might benefit you way more than a credit freeze will, just purely off of the convenience. However, a credit lock is not free. A credit freeze is free. One thing to keep in mind is that a credit freeze might require for you to have a PIN in order to unfreeze it. And if you are freezing your credit with LexisNexis or CoreLogic, it's likely that you probably have to have a PIN for them versus TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, where it's going to be a lot easier to lift that particular freeze. So make sure when you do get those PINs that you keep them somewhere handy that you can find whenever you do need to lift that freeze, or you might find it to be just a little bit difficult. But at the end of the day, they do honestly the same thing. And if you're not trying to have somebody out there with a brand new scat pack in your name, just freeze your credit. And when it comes to repairing your own credit, you're probably thinking, what credit should you be freezing? Now, there are some cons that a lot of people are not going to tell you about when it comes to freezing your credit, because I know there's some tricks and hacks out there that say to freeze the main three credit reporting agencies in order to try to get around certain things, but you may not want to do that. There are over 300 consumer reporting agencies. Now, you're not going to have to freeze all 300. So let me break it down, the ones that you need to be focusing on and the ones you probably don't. Now, the majority of us, if you have charge-offs, collections, repossessions, evictions, medical debt, you're likely going to need to freeze LexisNexis and CoreLogic because these are actually data sellers and they get a lot of consumer and credit information from a lot of different data sources. So again, freeze them, make sure you hold on to that pin so you can unfreeze it in the future. Now, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax are going to be parent companies to other secondary niche consumer reporting agencies. So you don't necessarily need to freeze the big three credit reporting agencies, because if you do and you're actively trying to be approved for things, for example, I heard someone say you should freeze them if you need to apply for an apartment but you have an eviction. That could easily get you denied, because if their process is to actually be able to run your credit and get a decline or an approval, they're probably just going to decline you if there's no real way to approve you. The secondary credit reporting agencies are going to be the ones you want to keep your eye on, because the niche secondaries really only hone in on certain types of debts or transactions. So if you have medical debt, you want to make sure you're freezing MIB Group. If you have a eviction, broken lease, or any type of rental debt. So this is going to be your secondary consumer credit reports like RealPage. So you can actually find the full list of all the consumer reporting agencies and a lot more details about them on the CFPB website. Now, once you're out of the credit repair stage and you're ready to go out there to get new trade lines in your name, because this is really going to be crucial when we're talking about having a solid credit report that is going to make us look as creditworthy as we can. And this means having trade lines that are primary to us. You're going to want to lift your credit before you go out there. Now, I know there's credit builders that are not going to pull your credit at all. I'm always going to recommend, especially to my clients, that you end up getting a credit card as a part of your credit building strategy to get you to above 800. And you don't really want to rely heavy on credit builder credit cards, that once you are at a place where your credit's good, your money's good, now you have a credit card in your wallet that doesn't come with cash back. There's no travel points. It's really hard for you to have a credit line increase where you're not securing that line with your own money. Getting in early, even if it does begin with a secured credit card with Citibank, Discover, even your local credit union, is always going to be the way that you want to go. But they are likely going to require that you have your credit run with them, even if it's for the pre-approval, so that way that final approval can come through. So you are going to have to lift that credit freeze. Now, I'm going to be building out that DIY credit repair playlist, so make sure you hit subscribe and you keep watching for more credit repair tips and credit building hacks, budgeting, savings, all of that.